I feel like with life often brings suffering. And, in life we often will encounter many things that bring us pain or cause us to venture into the more negative aspects of who we are. But I feel like as we exist, as we live our lives, we have to take the proper time to acknowledge what makes us feel the way that we do and what pushes us into these seasons of negativity in a way. I found that you know life's gonna have its ups and downs. We're all gonna have our experiences that we in a way attribute to who we are or find to be integral to the overall accumulation of the idea of self. And it's about realizing where this stuff comes from. It's about being there for yourself in order to sort of get on top of these issues. Because I feel like in reference to life, there's hundreds of things that we do and hundreds of things that, influence our day to day. But not all of them are representative of who we are as people. I feel like there's always stuff in life that is negative, and I feel like, the first step is not attributing it to yourself. It's one thing to endure a negative situation. It's one thing to deal with negative people. It's one thing to, think about yourself negatively. But that doesn't necessarily mean you are that way. I feel like in a very fundamental, grounding way, who we are is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. I feel like if someone feels like they are a negative person, or they feel like, they attract negativity, they're a bad person, this, and that, they tend to do things that are exemplary of those bad people. Now, that's not always the case. I've met plenty of quote unquote bad people that think they're good. I feel like it's all just a matter of flipping that coin. But in reference to those people who are good, good people who tend to attribute, these negative things to themselves. Like, for example, I talked about it in a podcast that I posted recently about how us college students, we're taking tests right now. I just got done with my finals. I did good. I'm very happy. But a lot of the times we do bad on certain things that we kind of put effort towards. And it's very hard to not attribute that to who you are. To not say oh, I'm a dumb kid. Oh, I did this. Oh, I really tried. I just can't do it. It's very hard to have that mental strength to do so. But I feel like it's that mental strength that makes you able to persevere through stuff like that. It's about getting back up in a way, or not attributing to self what should not. I feel like as people, we should be the one to decide how we are, and stop pulling in from the external in order to determine what our internal world is like. 99% of who we are is an internal thing. Only the 1% is an external. It's all about how you feel in relation to yourself, how things are in relation to who you are. You can experience something and feel one way. Someone else can experience it and feel it a completely different way. So it's always going to be you versus you in this way. It's about how you feel about it. I found that the main culprit of, having these seasons and whatnot, or getting into our negative bouts, is our minds. I feel like we're always projecting our minds' influence into the world and around us. And I've talked about this in a video. I have a video titled Projection, I believe. Essentially saying that a lot of the times we allow our mind to be external things. We allow, certain negative thoughts or feelings to influence the world around us, to allow things that aren't necessarily negative to be negative just because of our mind's influence. A quote that kind of helped me make this video, or kind of think of the idea when I was drafting it, was philosopher Marcus Aurelius. And he has a quote that says, "Often we suffer more in imagination than in reality." And I feel like that's 100% true. I feel like much of who we are or what we are is in relation to how we perceive ourselves. In saying that we suffer more often in imagination than reality, I think that he's positing the logical statement, exactly how it sounds. I feel like we often think about, how we'll feel in a situation or how a situation will go, especially if it's connotated as negative, more than we actually suffer in the moment. Like, for example, when you're like a kid, or even now, you have a presentation. Say your presentation's tomorrow. You're going to be up all night thinking about that presentation, or at least the average person. I would definitely be up part of the night, maybe a lot more when I was younger. But like now, I feel like I got it to a comfortable amount of, a healthy amount of stress. But I feel like there are those of us who kind of make it our whole life, living in that future moment, living in that anxiety rather than living in the present moment, all because we're suffering in that imagination more than the reality. Because once we get up to that stand, once we get up to that podium to present, I feel like even if you suffer, it's only going to be for like 2 minutes. In those 2 minutes, you're probably going to be, stressed, but afterwards, you're probably going to be like so relieved and be like, what was I stressing that much for? I feel like if all you can do is think about it, it's probably not worth thought. It's one thing to study. I mean, of course, practice your stuff. It's one thing to study. It's one thing to take the proper steps you need in order to get to your goal. But I feel like once those are done, over worrying and over stressing about it is not something that's worthwhile. I feel like it's also it goes hand in hand with this, like the idea of manifestation, like being in tune with your desire, or like proving to the world that what you posited in your head as something you want is something you're actually moving towards. And I feel like even if you don't believe in the whimsical nature of that or the spiritual nature of that, on a very logical, fundamental level, if you're moving towards your goals, if you're doing the things that you deem necessary in order to get to where you want to go, you're going to get to that point. It's just about knowing yourself well enough to get there, or allowing yourself the freedom to trust yourself. I feel like it's all about faith in self. We all have faith in a lot of things. Some people have religious contexted faith. Some people have this, that, and the other. But what I'm saying, like, it all depends on how you feel about yourself. It all depends on, like, the confidence you have for yourself, the faith you have in yourself, knowing yourself. Like, like for example, me, I did bad on my first stats midterm this semester, very bad. But I didn't necessarily attribute it to who I was. I just said, man, I just need to study a little bit more and I'll be fine. Finals coming up, I'm studying every day. I'm locking out 2 hours a day and I'm studying for it. It's just about learning and moving forward. I wouldn't be so grand as to say, like, I think I know myself. And I feel like that's also what helps me get to that next point. Not feeling like, feeling like I have an idea of what I want to be and who I am, but also realizing that thing is subject to change and it's not determined by certain external circumstances. Like, to be fair, math and that genre has come pretty easy to me since after high school and even my first year of college. So this was the first time where I was really like, man, this kind of sucks. Like, I'm not doing good, and I have to I'm actually locked in studying, and I'm still not doing that great. But I just kept telling myself, like, I'll be fine. I'll study for it. When I was studying, I'm like, okay, I actually grasped this. Okay, I'm good. When I'm at the test, I might be a little stressed. Everybody has pre-test jitters. Might be a little stressed, but overall, it's about that faith in self. I sat down and I was like, oh yeah. Like, after I looked at the test, I'm not gonna say before. After I looked at the test, I was like, oh yeah, I'm prepared for this. I studied for this. It's about realizing what makes you tick. Some people that probably won't work for. Some people might stress a lot more. Some people might be in the test more stress than they've ever been. But overall, I feel like we all suffer more in imagination than reality. We often attribute a more negative connotation in our minds to circumstances that aren't inherently negative or don't have a huge negative repercussions or context. You know, things aren't necessarily good or bad, especially in these cases. A test isn't a bad thing. If you knew you was going to get 100%, a test is a great thing. You know, it's all a matter of your perspective. And I'm not when I say stuff like that, I mean, you know, those mundane things, the things that don't have a ready connotation. Like, I know when things are inherently bad and inherently good, but in reference to those things which we allow ourselves to either stress over or, you know, brush under a rug, I feel like it's always more important to choose the positive path. More important to stop your mind's influence from really holding on to everything that encompasses you. It's about having faith in the self. If you made it this far, props to you. I hope y'all mess with the new setup. I brought my plant from my college dorm. I'm back home for winter break. You know, regularly scheduled content, of course. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for I hit 600 recently. Appreciate y'all.